country. The basin's water comes from 31 states, carries about 40% of the America's water, and supports communities, farms, and industries from the Midwest all the way down to the Gulf Coast. The basin is home for great fishing and a quarter of all North American fish species. Recreational fishing alone brings in about $26 billion to the economy every year, directly supporting our communities, small businesses, and families who depend on healthy waters. But managing the largest river system in North America requires diligent collaboration. 31 states, several tribal nations, and at least 7 federal agencies all share some responsibilities for the basin's fisheries. However, the coordination is inconsistent and funding is often unreliable. My bill, H.R. 1514, the Mississippi River Basin Fishery Commission, would help to fix that by providing structure and a stable funding stream for states, tribes, and federal partners to work together. The Mississippi River Basin Fishery Commission would be housed under the Department of the Interior and built on a voluntary partnership. Each state would be represented by the Chief of Fisheries to ensure that all decisions are based on local needs and local science, not D.C. bureaucrats. The Commission wouldn't add any new mandates or federal control. It focuses authority on collaboration, communication, not regulations. We use this very model back home on the Mississippi Gulf Coast. We've seen what the Gulf States Marine Fisheries Commission has been able to accomplish. It has brought the states together to share data, coordinate management, and protect shared resources. By authorizing the Mississippi River Basin Fishery Commission, we're giving our states the tools and stability they need to protect one of the world's most important river systems and to make sure it continues supporting jobs, recreation, and healthy ecosystems for future generations. Mr. Batten, thank you for being here today to testify before the subcommittee on this very important matter. Madam Chair, I yield back.
Thank you, Mr. Ezell. Mr. Rutherford could not join us this morning due to a scheduling conflict, but he has provided a written statement in support of the Fisheries Data Modernization and Accuracy Act of 2025. I ask unanimous consent to enter Congressman Rutherford's written testimony into the record. Without objection, so ordered. I now recognize Congressman Costa for 5 minutes.
Thank you very much, Madam Chairperson Hegman and Ranking Member Hoyle. It's nice to be here in this committee. I was a member for 18 years. It's familiar turf, and it's nice to be back. I'm excited about the legislation, the bipartisan legislation that I have to present to you. My bill, H.R. 338, Every Drop Counts Act, is a part of a bipartisan effort. Glad that we've got Christine Compton from the Irvine Ranch Water District here to testify on the benefits of this bill. As many of you know, I represent, along with my colleagues, what we think is the most prolific productivity of agriculture anywhere in the country, and therefore the world, the breadbasket of the San Joaquin Valley, where water is the lifeblood that keeps the critical industry going, as we like to say in California, in the valley, where water flows, food grows. Where water flows, food grows. And I have been a participant in these efforts for decades, chairing the State Senate Agriculture and Water Committee back in the day, and obviously have done a lot of work on water. And I believe in subscribing to using all the water tools in our water toolbox, and that includes surface storage supply, it includes conservation, it includes water transfers for best use, and it includes groundwater recharge, which is what this legislation is all about. Groundwater plays a critical role in California's water supply, often acting as a main source of water in areas without access to surface water. Yet, sadly, and it's just not in California, but in the Midwest and other parts of the country, we've overdrafted that groundwater in really critical ways. And it's had damaging effect to land subsidence, not only in the valley, but elsewhere. I'm talking about land subsidence of 10 to 20 feet and more that has disrupted existing infrastructure that we've had in place. And so I liken the impact, and let me give you some examples. In the San Joaquin Valley, land subsidence has impacted the Frank-Kern Canal, which has seen capacity to deliver water in a federal project that was developed in the 1950s by 60%, reduced the capacity of that system that was built in the 50s by 60% in some areas. Similarly, the Delta Mendota Canal has resulted in submerged canal surface turnouts and drain inlets and bridges and pipelines and control structures, again, because of the groundwater impacts and the subsidence that we've taken place. You know, I liken it, common sense. When I first went to Fresno State, I got my checking account. I thought it was pretty hot stuff. My dad told me, he said, hey, kid, you can only write those checks as long as you're making deposits. Well, this is the problem with our groundwater. Unless we have a balance, unless we're making deposits, we can't continue to utilize that groundwater. And so California, back in the about 10 years ago, passed the Sustainable Groundwater Management Act, known as SGMA. It's otherwise known but it's a difficult piece of law, but it's necessary. And we're attempting to comply with it. We have milestones in 2025, 2030, 2035, ultimately to come into compliance to bring our groundwater in balance with our surface water and our multiple uses. That's the goal, and we're working on it. And it combats land subsidence to ensure that we have a sustainable supply of that water for agriculture. Collaborative efforts spurred by SGMA and recent droughts are working. These partnerships between farmers, ranchers, state and local officials in a pivotal year, 2023, was able to lead to the recharge of 1.6 million acre-feet of groundwater in that period of time between 2023 and 2024, anywhere between 1.6 and 2.2 million acre-feet. That's a lot of water that has raised the surface. And to better manage California's groundwater and provide our farmers with more tools out of those 4 tools in our water toolbox for management. Along with my colleague Russ Fulcher from Idaho, I've introduced this legislation, Every Drop Counts. Now I want to put 2 pictures here because those of us who deal with water all the time, we know about what a 30,000 acre-feet of water looks like, or maybe 100,000 acre-feet of water looks like, because we deal with it all the time. This picture poster is Barrett Reservoir in San Diego County. And this represents about 34,000 acre-feet of water. So you can understand what it looks like to put 1.6 million or 2.2 million acre-feet into our ground supply. This here is the poster that I think is in Doug Lamoffa's district, Black Butte, Lake Glenn, and Tahoma counties. This reservoir has 144,000 acre-feet. What this would do, this legislation, Every Drop Counts, would expand groundwater projects from 30,000 acre-feet, which is the limit under the current law, to allow for projects up to 150,000 acre-feet, or the size of that second reservoir that I showed you. So it's very important. Let me close, because I know I'm expending on my time. That's why they kicked me off the committee a couple of years ago. Not real, but the bill also expands the eligibility criteria, not only from 30,000 to 150,000 acre-feet, but it would include aquifer stabilization efforts to ensure more projects in western United States, like the Eastern Snake River Plant Aquifer in Idaho, and other projects that would be very important. I would like for unanimous consent to enter in the record the Farm Family Water Alliance testimony. They couldn't be here. The Idaho Water Resources Board, and the letter of support for the San Luis Delta Mendota Water Authority, of which I work with very closely. All of these organizations and groups support it, and I'd like to unanimous
Without
consent.
objection, so ordered.
I'll close on this last statement, Madam Chairperson. You've been very patient, and thank you. To adequately prepare for the next mega drought across the West, because we know we have floods and we have droughts, this bipartisan effort helps spurs and not stifle investment into better water management for our groundwater, for agriculture, for urban and environmental uses. And I thank you for the consideration in this bill. And I'd be happy to answer any questions. As you can see, I'm excited about the legislation and to be back here in the committee. Thank you.
Thank you. Wyoming first recognized the relationship between surface water and groundwater in 1945, and as a result, we've largely avoided any kind of groundwater mining, which has plagued some of our other states. I want to thank the members for their testimony, and I will now introduce the witnesses on our second panel. Mr. Ben Batten, Chairman of the Mississippi Interstate Cooperative Resource Association from Little Rock, Arkansas. Welcome. Mr. Justin Conrad, Chair-elect of the National Fisheries Institute from Greensboro, North Carolina. Thank you for being here. Ms. Christine Compton, the Director of Strategic Communications and Advocacy and Deputy General Counsel of the Irvine Ranch Water District from Irvine, California. We're glad you're here. And Dr. C.J. Sweetman, the Federal Fisheries Section Leader of the Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission, Division of Marine Fisheries Management from Tallahassee, Florida. Thank you for coming. Under committee rules, you must limit your oral statements to 5 minutes, but your entire statement will appear in the hearing record. To begin your testimony, please press the button on the microphone. And as you see, we use timing lights. When you begin, the light will turn green. When you have 1 minute remaining, the light will turn yellow. And at the end of the 5 minutes, the light will turn red. And I will ask you to please complete your statement. I will also allow all witnesses to testify before member questioning. I now recognize Chairman Westerman to introduce Mr. Batten.
Thank you, Chair Hageman, and good to see our friend Mr. Costa back on the committee today. I know he's passionate about California water, and hopefully we can help him solve some of those issues. But, Madam Chair, it's always good to see an Arkansan here in Congress, and I'm proud to welcome Ben Batten, who is the Deputy Director of the Arkansas Game and Fish Commission, to the subcommittee for today's hearing. Ben has had a long career of service to the natural state in his more than 16 years with the commission. Some people think he's actually from Arkansas, but he moved there, but we claim him and want to keep him there. He's worked particularly in fisheries management, and in addition to his professional experience, he holds a master's degree in fisheries management from the University of Arkansas at Pine Bluff, which is in my district and which is a very well-known fisheries school across the country. Ben, I appreciate you being here today and taking time to participate in the hearing, and I look forward to the discussion. Madam Chair, I yield back.
Thank you, Mr. Westerman. I now recognize Mr. Batten for 5 minutes.
Good morning, Chair Hageman, Ranking Member Hoyle, and members of the committee. I am truly honored to address you regarding House Resolution 1514, the proposed Mississippi River Basin Fishery Commission Act of 2025. Again, my name is Ben Batten, and I proudly serve as Deputy Director of the Arkansas Game and Fish Commission. And I also serve as the Chairman of the Mississippi Interstate Cooperative Resource Association, or MICRA. And since its inception in 1991, MICRA is an association of 28 state wildlife and fisheries agencies, along with the United States Fish and Wildlife Service and the United States Geological Service, that collaborates on the management of interjurisdictional fisheries and aquatic resources across the Mississippi River Basin. The Mississippi River Basin is an ecosystem of immense global significance. It's the largest watershed in the United States and the fourth largest on the planet, covering over 41% of the continental United States, including 31 states and over 1.2 million square miles. This immense scale inherently creates complex challenges for cooperative resource management across numerous jurisdictions. The basin's fishery resources are crucial, supporting a wide range of subsistence, commercial, and recreational activities. Recreational fishing alone has an estimated $26 billion per year economic impact. Nationally, fishing-related expenditures totaled nearly $100 billion in 2022. The sustainability of these resources is fundamentally dependent on effective state and federal collaboration. Fisheries in the basin face critical and escalating threats, including water quality and quantity issues, habitat fragmentation and degradation, and invasion of aquatic invasive species such as carp and mussels. The complexity is compounded by interjurisdictional native species. At least 90 different fish species migrate hundreds or thousands of miles across multiple states and jurisdictional boundaries. This scale demands an elevated perspective and an enhanced level of collaboration among management agencies. Currently, despite the economic, ecological, and social importance of these fisheries, there is no congressionally recognized interstate compact or federal legislation designed to guide or facilitate cooperative fisheries management for the entire basin. This act would design to fill that gap and would establish the Fishery Commission to facilitate basin-wide interagency collaboration for fisheries management, establish shared management objectives, and enable collaborative planning, implementation, and evaluation of research and management activities. This structure is necessary to ensure long-term biological and economic sustainability of the interjurisdictional fisheries resources. Substantial investments have been made in habitat restoration and AIS control, but there has been little to no direct investment in managing sustainable interjurisdictional fisheries themselves. The framework for the Mississippi River Basin Commission is a proven model mimicking successful commissions that manage interjurisdictional fisheries in the Great Lakes, the Gulf, Atlantic, and Pacific. We closely consulted the Great Lakes Fishery Commission model, which was formed in the 1950s to combat sea lamprey invasions, and we find ourselves in a similar fight today against numerous invasive species. The Commission will provide a crucial organizational framework and a permanent formal governance structure for managing these shared resources. Entities eligible to voluntarily join include the 31 states within the basin, all U.S. federally recognized tribal nations, and relevant federal agencies including the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, the U.S. Geological Survey, and the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. A core function of the Fishery Commission will be to provide stable and dedicated funding to support essential research, personnel, and management actions. This funding will be distributed through two mechanisms. First, a formula-based, non-competitive grant awarded to state member entities for eligible interjurisdictional fisheries work. This predictable and stable funding is crucial for states to make long-term investments in personnel and equipment to tackle problems like carp. Competitive grants will also be available to states, NGOs, and higher education institutions to undertake projects and research outlined in basin plans. It's important to note the Fishery Commission will operate with non-binding authority. It will not supersede the existing sovereign management authority of any member state, and Commission decisions will be made through consensus. For years, states within the Mississippi River Basin have managed these resources with limited formal structure or dedicated funding. Fish do not know state boundaries, and unfortunately, invasive species do not either. We're far past the time for this commission to be established. We need Congress to provide the Mississippi River Basin with the tools it vitally needs to succeed in restoring and protecting America's watershed, to eradicate invasive carp, conserve habitat, and secure our native sport fish, along with paddlefish, sturgeon, and many other important populations for current and future anglers to enjoy. I urge the committee to pass this legacy piece of legislation, the Mississippi River Basin Fishery Commission Act.
Thank you for your testimony. I actually am quite surprised that there has not previously been an organization like this created, considering how incredibly complicated this is. I now recognize Mr. Conrad for 5 minutes.
Chair Hageman, Ranking Member Hoyle, and members of the subcommittee, good morning, and thank you for having me here. My name is Justin Conrad. I'm from Greensboro, North Carolina. I'm the founder and CEO of Bay Hill Seafood Sales, the president of Libby Hill Seafood Restaurants, and the chair-elect of the National Fisheries Institute, otherwise known as NFI. I'm also a proud husband to my wife, Andrea, and father to our 3 girls. NFI is a leading voice for the commercial seafood industry with over 300 members spanning the entire seafood value chain, from domestic harvesters, vessel owners, exporters, processors, distributors, importers, cold storage, restaurants, and retailers. NFI represents the seafood industry from water to table. The responsible management of our oceans is extremely important, not only to our members' livelihood and businesses, but also to the families we help feed. My part in today's hearing focuses on the Fighting Foreign Illegal Seafood Harvest, or the FISH Act. The FISH Act aims to help eliminate illegally caught seafood from entering the United States. To begin, IUU fishing, where it occurs, is a black mark on the global industry, bringing both direct and collateral harm that calls for deliberate and decisive policy action. IUU seafood damages our industry by undermining legitimate harvesters, undercutting fishery management systems, and eroding consumer confidence in the sustainability of seafood. Our members take a backseat to no one in our efforts to ensure the seafood we sell has been caught legally. Over the past 2 decades, NFI has supported a number of initiatives to detect and reduce IUU fishing, including the Port State Measures Agreement, the Better Seafood Board, the International Coalition of Fisheries Association, and the WTO Agreement on Fisheries Subsidies. These initiatives utilize both a multilateral and bilateral government-to-government approach to halt IUU fishing before it enters commerce. One effort that just hasn't worked is the Seafood Import Monitoring Program, or SIMP. SIMP was created by regulation back in 2016. From day one, it's been burdensome and unworkable for U.S. seafood producers, processors, and distributors. Even the National Marine Fisheries Service has said outright that SIMP does not prevent or stop IUU fish and products from entering U.S. commerce. One of the main problems with SIMP is this data collection occurs after the harvest event, so it doesn't stop illegal fishing. And oddly enough, SIMP even covers some aquaculture products. How can farmed fish be illegally fished? That just doesn't make sense. We commend President Trump's seafood executive order for also recognizing SIMP as a failed program and directing Secretary Lutnick to explore ways to narrow the program's reach. However, we would go further and scrap SIMP in its entirety. Scrapping SIMP and starting over would allow NMFS and other agencies a chance to focus on government-to-government initiatives that actually work at combating IUU. To get back to the reason I'm here today, H.R. 3756, the FISH Act, a bipartisan bill sponsored by Representatives Crenshaw, Magaziner, and Begich, is one of those initiatives that offers a way to fight IUU at its source. The FISH Act would go after the bad actors. It would do so by creating a blacklist or IUU vessel list of foreign vessels and owners that have engaged in IUU fishing and put sanctions on these owners. The FISH Act would bolster bilateral and multilateral initiatives, including having the Coast Guard increase at-sea inspections and help train other countries and RFMOs for vessel inspection, and would look to new technologies to help against IUU in a variety of ways. NFI members remain committed to stopping IUU fishing and its ill-gotten product from entering into U.S. commerce. We should have a strong legal foundation to detect and punish bad actors where they are, rather than in the case of SIMP, burdening business with a blizzard of paperwork and endless audits. The FISH Act is a whole-of-government approach. We view the FISH Act as a major step forward. We look forward to its consideration and enactment. Thank you again for your time today, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Conrad. I now recognize Representative Min to introduce Ms. Compton.
Thank you, Chair Hageman. Thank you, Ranking Member Hoyle, for convening this very important hearing. And I'm honored to welcome a constituent of mine, Christine Compton, who's done amazing work for the Irvine Ranch Water District as its Director of Strategic Communications and Deputy General Counsel. Now, some of you may be surprised to know that Orange County, California is actually the epicenter of some amazing work in water. It's seen as an undisputed national and global leader in groundwater sustainability. We have people coming from all over the world to see some of the innovations that groups like Irvine Ranch Water District are doing. And so we've seen a lot of innovation. I encourage you to come down sometime and visit our water filtration systems, which has become an amazing duck pond, a rare bird sanctuary. I'm told that today we recycle in Orange County over 99% of our water. We actually import sewage from other places to recycle. And I think the innovations that we're developing are not only helping us in California and in Orange County to ensure that every Californian has access to clean, reliable water, they're really creating innovations that I think are being exported around the world. And so, of course, Southern California is home to, is often the site of severe and prolonged droughts. So these types of practices are really, really important. So really proud to represent Irvine Ranch Water District, the amazing success stories that they represent, and really honored to welcome Ms. Compton to the committee today. Ms. Compton, thank you for flying out to Washington, D.C. A lot colder here than in Irvine, and thank you for sharing your stories.
Thank you. I now recognize Ms. Compton for 5 minutes.
Thank you so much, Chair Heckman and Ranking Member Hoyle and members of the committee. As you've heard, I'm with the Irvine Ranch Water District, and we're so pleased to be here in support of H.R. 338, the Every Drop Counts Act. At Irvine Ranch Water District, we are a retail water agency, so we serve the middle 20% of Orange County safe, drinking water day in and day out. And we are known in the industry as being water resource managers that really show leadership in these areas, as you've heard. We've really focused on recycled water and done some amazing things in that area, but water resource management, water resiliency, and have really been focused, because we're from California, on how we ensure that even during the deepest droughts, that we're prepared to meet the water needs of our community. And so one of the things we've recognized, we've really diversified our water supply portfolio in recognizing that. And so 85% of our water sources come from local supplies. Over 50% of our total water supplies are actually from recycled water. And so we've really done a lot of work in that area. But despite that, we've recognized the need that we need to do more. We need to capture water when it's available for use in drier times. That way we're balancing out when water comes to California. And so to that end, we've worked in partnership and have had a longstanding partnership with agencies that are different than us. We are in Southern California, and we have a longstanding partnership with the Rosedale Rio Bravo Water Storage District, which is located in Kern County. They serve agricultural customers. We serve urban customers. And that partnership of banking groundwater has really proved to be successful. And what we found is we're able to develop triple wins. Wins from urban customers, agricultural customers, and the environment. And so we're moving forward with another project called the Kern Van Groundwater Storage Project. It's one of a small handful of projects the state has funded for storage. And so because we really see this benefit. The Bureau of Reclamation Small Storage Program has been really useful to local water agencies that are looking to do this sort of work. And so the program provides up to 25% cost share for select surface and groundwater storage projects that are sized between 200 and 30,000 acre feet, increasing water and moving water into that storage. While the program has really been successful, the Bureau has had an interpretation of law in a way that really unrealistically limits groundwater storage. Unlike surface storage, groundwater storage is not about building a reservoir. You're using what's naturally there in the ground. And so a more appropriate measure is really how much water you can recharge. And so the Every Drop Counts bill really seeks to recognize that and put it more on par with the surface water storage and looking at how much water you can recharge and store and then recover. So we really do feel that Every Drop Count will make it easier for the Bureau to work with local agencies to develop these projects that are necessary. They'll also help stabilize the groundwater aquifers and in fact benefit all groundwater users, not those that are just storing the projects. Because when there's more water in the ground, it means those wells that are there can recover water as well. And so I want to thank Representative Costa and Representative Valadeo, Representative Gray and Min and the other co-sponsors of this important bipartisan legislation to really see if we can do more to capture water when it's available for those drier times across the United States. Thank you so much for having me again, and I'm more than happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. And I now recognize Dr. Sweetman for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Chair Hageman, Ranking Member Hoyle, and members of the subcommittee, and thank you for the opportunity to provide testimony on HR 5699, the Fisheries Data Modernization and Accuracy Act of 2025. My name is Dr. CJ Sweetman, and I'm the Federal Fisheries Section Leader for the Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission. As someone that's directly involved in fisheries management in both the Gulf and the South Atlantic, the challenges of MRIP and its impacts on fisheries management are well known. Fisheries management is truly only as effective as the accuracy of the data that is being used to drive these fisheries management decisions. And in Florida, where fishing is a major component of our lives, having the correct data is essential. FWC is pleased to support HR 5699 and thanks Congressman Rutherford for his efforts to improve MRIP. NOAA created MRIP in 2008, and the data comes from dockside reporting on the number, type, and size of fish that are harvested, as well as a mail survey called the Fishing Effort Survey. In 2017, FWC leadership testified in this very room about the need to reform MRIP, and unfortunately, all the statements that were made then about MRIP's deficiencies are still very relevant today. MRIP does not consider regional differences, and therefore its one-size-fits-all approach for the entire country routinely creates inaccuracy issues. MRIP was not designed for or equipped for tracking recreational catch to the nearest pound or for in-season fisheries management. At times, when NOAA makes projections using MRIP, they are inaccurate and unrealistic. For example, with things called rare event species, which are species that are infrequently sampled by MRIP, such as some of our more popular recreational fisheries like snapper and grouper species. NOAA's own policy states that data with really high levels of error, which is common for these rare event species, are not recommended for use in management. But despite all of this, NOAA has forced the councils to use this unreliable data to manage nearly all of their fisheries. MRIP is so very far behind what is needed for recreational fisheries management that fisheries managers cannot continue to do the same thing with minor improvements and expect better results. Recreational anglers cannot continue to be told that the federal data is improving and only see marginal improvements. We do need reform on MRIP, and we need it quickly. Here's a few examples for where MRIP missed the mark. First, greater amberjack in Mississippi. In 2022, a single greater amberjack was caught, and that was extrapolated to estimate that 300,000 pounds of fish were harvested off the coast of Mississippi. Second, MRIP's fishing effort survey. This routinely produces unrealistic projections that are then used by NOAA in order to guide management decisions. In 2023, NOAA admitted that its own survey may be overestimating recreational fishing effort by 30 to 40%. While it is positive that NOAA is finally addressing these longstanding concerns about MRIP, many in the fisheries management field do expect this fix to really be a Band-Aid on a large open wound. Third, South Atlantic red snapper. This stock is no longer overfished, no longer undergoing overfishing, and biomass and abundance are at record levels, which is consistent with what anglers tell us. However, under the previous administration, NOAA has advocated for closures based on highly uncertain MRIP discard data, despite past NOAA leadership and current scientific advisors stating that MRIP discard data should not be used for management purposes due to the high levels of uncertainty. Comparatively, Florida's own state data collection program indicates that red snapper catch, effort, and discards are 2 to 3 times less than what NOAA estimates, and Florida State Reef Fish Survey is more accurate. These mismanagement examples can lead to unnecessary closures, short fishing seasons, and can have significant economic impacts. Because of this, each state in the Gulf developed their own data collection program where the data is more accurate, timelier, and ultimately more useful for sustainable fisheries management. Now, red snapper is successfully managed by each Gulf state. These data collection systems were the foundation for what we believe may be one of the greatest success stories in fisheries management in the country. And now, just last week, all of the South Atlantic states submitted exempted fishing permit applications to begin the transfer of recreational management of Atlantic red snapper from the federal government to the states. It is well past time to improve MRIP, and HR 5699 will make the necessary improvements, such as having the National Academy of Sciences act as a de facto auditor and reviewer, also requiring NOAA to reduce levels of error in MRIP or use data collected from state-led programs, as well as providing funds to the states to improve their own data collection systems. These are just some of the reasons why FWC supports HR 5699. Thank you for the opportunity to testify.
Thank you, Dr. Sweetman. I want to thank all of the witnesses for your testimony, and I will now recognize members for 5 minutes each for questioning. I'm going to begin with myself. Mr. Conrad, I would like to begin with you. Many of our members have been interested in acting to counter illegal, unreported, unregulated, or IUU fishing activities. We know that this is not a problem that the United States can solve alone, but must solve with our international partners. We also know that solving IUU requires real, concrete action to hold bad actors accountable. Could you talk about the importance of the Fish Act's enforcement provisions in combating IUU fishing?
Chair Hageman, thank you, and that's a great question. The Fish Act actually provides enforcement mechanisms, which we don't have today. We have the ability to, the blacklist that's mentioned, where not only would the foreign vessels, but in some cases the vessel owners as well, would go on that. We would have U.S. port entry bans, which would keep these out of the supply chain. Import bans on seafood linked to these listed vessels. These are important because we don't have that creation from SEMP. There's been no enforcement through the Department of Justice. So the Fish Act enforcement mechanisms are definitely more strenuous.
Well, I appreciate that. I've had the opportunity to go on a couple of CODELs where we have addressed IUU fishing, both in the South Pacific as well as in the Far East, and some of the work that our international partners are doing, such as South Korea. I know that they are working hard to address this because it is a very important and significant issue, not only for the United States, but for people around the world. Mr. Batten, I'd like to turn to you now. In your testimony, you talk about the threat aquatic invasive species pose to water supplies across the Mississippi River Basin and the challenges of interjurisdictional fish species. How important are these interstate partnerships to address these types of issues?
Yeah, so again, I think the scale of the basin and the complexity of the issues make it absolutely critical to have this level of collaboration and coordination that we just have not had. Again, it's been proven as a model to work with these other commissions, and I think that this solution here will help lead us to where we need to be.
Wonderful. And now Dr. Sweetman. After years of ineffective management driven by the failures of the MRIP model, the 5 states along the Gulf of America worked to develop a more effective and accurate fisheries management program. Central to this effort was the first Trump administration's approval of state management of red snapper, a key species for the recreational sector. And I can tell you that we've had several opportunities to have people come and testify before this committee about the red snapper and the challenges imposed by the previous administration with their effort to restrict our ability to access this resource for recreation and other purposes. Can you explain what efforts or what lessons we have learned from these efforts by the states to develop their own programs? What have we learned from that?
Yeah, thank you for that question, Chair. We have learned a lot based on that experience, and it's now currently being applied to the South Atlantic based on that experience. Perhaps the biggest thing that we've learned is that the states know their fisheries and their fishermen better than some sort of standardized survey that's a one-size-fits-all across the entire country. Because of that, I mean, I can speak for Florida as well as many of the other Gulf states, our recreational data collection programs have significantly less levels of error associated with it than some of the MREP data collection programs. Unfortunately, for the most part, except for red snapper, that is really the only fishery where the state data collection programs are being utilized right now.
So one of the things that I have worked on for literally decades as a private attorney and now in my role in Congress is to try to return more power to the states. I personally believe that the closer that someone is to the issue and the problem, the more effective they're going to be at addressing it, at understanding it, the more accountable that they will be. And it sounds like this is an example of that exact situation. How does the ongoing work from the South Atlantic states build on the experiences in the Gulf? What have they been able to do?
Yeah, so thank you for that question again. We are taking everything that we've learned from the Gulf over there and applying it to the South Atlantic. Simply, we are extrapolating our survey to apply to the South Atlantic, and we are looking at trying to test different levels of fishing effort, fishing catch, as well as discards there. And what we've learned in the Gulf is that it wasn't as extreme as what the NOAA was telling us it was. We got to 3 days in the Gulf, and now we have 127 days this year for the state of Florida. We are hoping to start that off in the South Atlantic, and Florida has proposed a 39-day season through the exempted fishing permit process.
Well, wonderful. It's good to hear that, and it's nice to hear that people are working to find solutions to these issues so that we can improve the opportunities for everyone. I do have to go and engage in another committee, subcommittee on the Constitution. We're having another hearing, so I'm going to turn my seat over to my co-chair here, Mr. Ezell. I appreciate you all being here, and I'm hoping that I will be back before we have finished the hearing today.
Mr. Huffman, you're the next contestant here.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to start with H.R. 5699, which of course focuses on recreational fishery data. On the West Coast, data is collected through the RecFin program, which covers marine recreational fisheries in Alaska, Washington, Oregon, and California. RecFin has worked well for many years. It has the buy-in of West Coast federal and state fisheries managers, as well as stakeholder groups. And so, Mr. Sweetman, I'd like to start with you. Is it the intent of H.R. 5699 to reform and enhance MRIP to supersede the data collection, management, operation, and protocols of programs outside of the Gulf and South Atlantic?
Thank you for that question, Congressman. I do not think that is the intent of this bill. I think the intent of this bill is to allow for states that do, basically it's to improve the error that's associated with current recreational data programs. And for states that do have that, it offers the opportunity to kind of mitigate some of those issues based on those programs.
Thank you. The reason I ask is that as written, the bill rewrites NOAA's recreational data standards and would force managers to disregard data even in regions where programs already work. If the bill does not intend to disrupt programs like RecFin, and I'm glad to hear you, I think, suggest that that is not the intent, I wonder if you would support adding language to the legislation, making that clarification. Or, I should talk to the author of the bill, of course, about that. But would you agree that that would be a good idea to make that explicitly clear in this bill?
Yeah, thank you for that question, Congressman. I don't think that there's any intent, at least from Florida's side, to kick out MRIP altogether. At the end of the day, it's about getting the best data that we have in order to make informed fisheries management decisions. So from that perspective, yes, sir.
And no intent to disrupt RecFin, specifically on the West Coast. Thank you. This bill would eliminate standardized data calibration methods between states and reduce the available data for management decisions as written. I wonder, Mr. Sweetman, if you can name any scientific field where using less data and actually ruling out calibration is a good idea if you want to get to accuracy. Doesn't this seem out of step with just the way data works in informing decisions?
Yeah, thank you for that question. And I can speak really from the Gulf states' perspective, where all of their programs have been certified. Florida's is calibrated to MRIP. So for Florida, that issue is okay because it's not trying to use less data. It is actually trying to use just better data that we have there. And when it's calibrated to MRIP, that kind of gives an apples to apples comparison for what that can be.
What about outside of Florida?
The Gulf states are set up to do that as well. The South Atlantic states are making progress in that direction right now with their exempted fishing permits that they've got for red snapper. And then that is really my area of expertise.
But this bill would eliminate that calibration effort, as I understand it.
I do not think this bill is trying to get rid of MRIP altogether or get rid of the calibration process there. I think that's an important part for understanding kind of what you get from MRIP and how that translates to what a state data collection program might have. And it's really about that 30% standard error where, an individual state can do that. It does not say that you don't have to use MRIP altogether. It's just if you have data to support that there's better information there for fisheries management, it offers the opportunity to do that.
It would supersede, but I think some more conversations are probably in order about how that would actually play out, because my understanding is this is absolutely superseding, sidelining MRIP data, and ending the calibration process. I'm hearing you say that that is not the intent, but we have a bill that I believe would do all of those things, and so clearly there's some more work that is needed. Mr. Chairman, this bill as written, I think is very problematic. I think it is part of a long line of attempts to turn over more management of federal fisheries to state recreational interest without guardrails that are very important. And I appreciate some of Mr. Sweetman's statements about seeming to acknowledge the importance of guardrails. This bill doesn't have them. And so we've got more work to do if this is a bill that would be expected to move forward with broad bipartisan support. And with that, I yield back.
Gentleman yields. I now recognize myself for 5 minutes. Thank you again for being here today. And Mr. Batten, what is the greatest factor holding management of fisheries back right now?
Yes, sir. Thank you for the question. I would just say, competition for limited resource, lack of stable funding, and then the organization at a higher level. A very simple example of this would be the aquatic nuisance species grant. So each state with an approved A&S plan is eligible for just under $100,000 per year in funding. This amount is just enough to hire a coordinator should states choose to use it that way, but does not provide funding to actually go on the ground and do the work that needs to be done. The funding to the states, in the case of the commission, would be significantly larger than this and would allow states to invest in equipment and hire full-time interjurisdictional fisheries managers and biologists to do the actual work required to manage fisheries properly, including sampling fish populations, habitat work, and research to inform management decisions.
Thank you. Mr. Batten, how does the commission structure improve coordination among those that are currently manage the Mississippi River Basin fisheries independently?
Yes, sir. So we are attempting to do this informally now. However, the structure that would be brought about and the formality and the recognition by Congress would bring with it the resource, additional clout, et cetera, that I think would allow the basin to operate at a much higher level as we collaborate to, manage these very complex fisheries.
Thank you. And what specific gaps in the coordination or authority exist today that this commission is intended to formalize or fix?
Yeah, so the amount of resource that's going to each state in order to do this resource, we're competing with declining resources for the management of native fish species every day. I see it at my agency. And so again, some of the resource to do this, and then also the amount of resource that is going to overall collaboration of the Mississippi River Basin that's coming through our federal partners like the Geological Survey, U.S. Fish and Wildlife Survey, et cetera, just pales in comparison to what's being done with these other commissions, and being able to see the way that they're able to operate gives us hope that should this commission pass, we will be able to do some of the similar kind of achievements.
Thank you. And I just want to make a statement. Over the most of my life, I have fished out in the Gulf of America. And one thing that I will say, over the last 3 or 4 years, I have never seen as many sharks out there as I have. I cannot tell you how many times that we've been pulling up a big red snapper and end up with a very small piece of that fish. So we need to take some sort of action about the shark population, and I'll just leave that with y'all, and I thank you very much, and I yield back. We now recognize Mr. Crank for 5 minutes of questioning.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My constituents want to know, of course, that their seafood that they're eating is responsibly sourced, and illegal, unreported, and unregulated fishing is a serious global issue that directly affects everyone in our country. And regardless of whether you live on the coast or you're landlocked, like my constituents in Colorado, it's concerning that 11% of the seafood comes from countries that don't abide by sound fish management policies like we do here in the United States. And I fully support efforts by the committee and the Trump administration to more effectively combat IUU fishing. Mr. Conrad, how does the Fish Act change the U.S.'s approach to IUU fishing to ensure my constituents can enjoy sustainable seafood?
Congressman, thank you. That's a good question. It's anytime you have issues within the supply chain, such as bad actors and doing these type of illegal activities, it creates a challenge with the consumer about their confidence in what they're getting. Consumers want to know that their product is sourced correctly. Consumers want to know that they're buying from reputable sources. And so the Fish Act actually gives teeth to the government to go after and find these bad actors and make sure that product doesn't come into the supply chain.
Do you think that a more proactive approach will benefit stock assessment for commercial fishing?
I think any opportunity we have to prevent bad actors in any regulated sector can only strengthen and benefit that sector.
Okay. IUU fishing not only depletes fish stocks, weakens local fishing economies, and it's very often linked to organized crime to forced labor, to human trafficking, to smuggling. But it also poses a significant national security threat. China, unsurprisingly, ranks number one as the worst offender for IUU fishing. China sees the economic value of the seafood industry, and more concerning, it fits into their strategy of being the top maritime power. Experts estimate that China commands over 17,000 vessels in its distant water fleet. China has secured fishing agreements with over 42 countries, granting access not just to seafood resources, but to ports, logistical hubs, and surveillance opportunities. Mr. Conrad, the FISH Act directs the U.S. to be more proactive in pursuing IUU agreements with other countries. Do you believe that this could be a tool to stop not only China's IUU activities, but also slow their ambition for more maritime control?
Congressman, not speaking about China specifically, but about the issue of IUU and any nations that may engage in that. The blacklist that would apply under the FISH Act can only strengthen our ability to go after those bad actors.
Yeah. Well, thank you. This is an important issue. Obviously, when you're a landlocked state like Colorado, doesn't seem like it's maybe as important, but it really is it's certainly a food safety issue as well. And I know that this is a big issue for coastal communities as well. So thank you for your time today. And Mr. Chairman, I'd yield back.
Gentleman yields. Chair recognizes Mr. Gray for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you to our witnesses for being here today. Improving and expanding water storage in California and throughout the West couldn't be more critical. California has struggled to grow its water supply, failing to invest in necessary infrastructure to store more water for years. In a time where we've more than doubled our population, I think we've increased our capacity to store water less than 1%. At the same time, the state in the last decade has implemented the Sustainable Groundwater Management Act, or SGMA, requiring local communities to develop plans to manage groundwater. Actions that don't have balance like this leave our farmers even more vulnerable to water shortages, especially during dry years. While I strongly agree that we need to preserve and protect our environment, we must also make investments in water supply to create a sustainable future for agriculture. For these reasons, I'm certainly proud to support the bipartisan Every Drop Counts Act led by my colleagues from the San Joaquin Valley, Reps. Costa and Valadeo. In the Valley, water reliability is absolutely critical to our people and our economy. It drives the agricultural production that funds our state and feeds our country. Ms. Compton, I appreciate your comments about the importance of water reliability. When I served in the state legislature, I actually secured tens of millions of dollars for floodplain restoration in the San Joaquin Valley. This funding, in tandem with the work of organizations like River Partners, had significant impacts both for environmental protection, but as importantly, groundwater recharge in our region. Could you expand a little further on why groundwater recharge projects, which could be expanded if we enact this bill, would be helpful to regions like the San Joaquin Valley?
I'd be more than happy to. So when it comes to water supplies and groundwater recharge, there are the project proponents that move forward with, the groundwater recharge project, but it actually ends up benefiting everybody in the groundwater aquifer, because when you put more water in, you're raising the groundwater levels. And so even those that aren't storing that water and doing the recharge actually benefit from the project, not only because of the leave behind, but because their well reaches the groundwater level and they don't have to drill it farther. And so it actually ends up being a win for everybody across the board, both the project sponsors, and if it's done right, like the projects that I talked about in my statement and that we're doing currently in the Central Valley, you can have an urban ag environmental win, which is so rare in water, but we need to stop fighting against each other and find those projects that provide that triple win. And groundwater recharge certainly does do that for agricultural in the Central Valley.
I appreciate that response, I'd certainly like to see the federal government do more in investing in projects like the state of California's invested in with those, because you hit the nail on the head in that it's one of the few water projects in our region in California that has support across the board. You know, there's a great, actually new state park in my district, Dos Rios, that was the result of an investment in projects with river partners just like that. And the ranching community actually sits on what was one of California's oldest cattle ranches. But the support from agriculture, environmentalists, and then of course the community at large now having a new wonderful state park on top of it. We ought to be doing dozens of projects like that up and down the San Joaquin Valley to achieve some balance where we're not just taking water, depleting water supply for farmers, but rather making the necessary investments. So thank you for your testimony. With that, Mr. Chairman, I yield back.
Gentleman yields. Chair recognizes Mr. Webster for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Dr. Sweetman, 3 days before leaving office, President Biden proposed the closure of red snapper off the state of Florida. This closure would have been based on, I think, bad science. So President Trump killed that proposal when he became president, and it's supportive of expanding, and he is supportive of expanding fishing opportunities for red snapper in the South Atlantic based on solid science. So despite President Trump's desire to expand opportunities, do the NOAA fisheries bureaucrats still push for closures of the South Atlantic in South Atlantic meetings?
Thank you, Congressman, for that question. And first, thank you for everything that you do for the state of Florida. Yes, in short, yes, there has been recent pushes. South Atlantic Council is working on something known as a management strategy evaluation. And despite the widespread non-support for a closure during Secretarial Amendment 59, those conversations are still being brought up by NOAA Fisheries.
So in 2025, how long is the red snapper season in the Gulf, and who manages the Gulf?
This year, for the state of Florida, it is going to be 127 days, and it is the state of Florida, Florida Fish and Wildlife, that sets that season.
And in the South Atlantic, how long is the season there, and who manages it?
They had 2 days this year, and that fishery is managed by NOAA Fisheries.
So when Florida begins to manage the red snapper in 2026, how long will the fishing season be?
Yeah, thank you, Congressman. So Florida submitted, along with the other South Atlantic states, exempted fishing permit applications. That still has to go through the formalized approval process. It's going to go to the South Atlantic Council at their December meeting, and then it needs to be approved by NOAA Fisheries. And if it is approved as is for NOAA Fisheries in the state of Florida, the fishing season would be 39 days.
Thank you very much. Yield back.
Gentleman yields. Ms. Hoyle, 5 minutes.
Thank you. Mr. Conrad, so I represent 2/3 of the Oregon coast, one of the richest ocean ecosystems in the world. We feed the world. And I know as a seafood importer, you understand how important it is to have rules, to have laws, because you follow the law, you follow the rules, you ensure that American consumers are protected and that the workers who are doing the jobs are protected as well. So I believe that if we enforce current laws to make sure that you're not having to compete with people that are operating poorly, that's important. But sometimes you have to add new laws, and this is one of those times. What I have seen with ships that they're registered in other countries, they spend most of their time on international waters, and there are horrific workers' abuses, horrific human rights abuses, trafficking, and then again, they're also not following other laws. Can you speak to some of the issues that you have seen with these bad actors and what this would do to protect our consumers and people like you who operate in good faith?
Thank you for that question, Congresswoman. And we do take pride in what we do as a company, and we take multiple steps to make sure that those type of items are not in our supply chain and don't come here to the United States on our behalf. Again, I'll go back to the Fish Act giving us the opportunity to register those vessels, to create a blacklist where we know who they are, we know who the owners are, we ban them from our ports, we stop the product before it gets in the supply chain. That is so important for us to do that, and that is the differential between what we have now and what the Fish Act does.
That's great. I know in the construction industry, we are able to debar contractors that break the law so that good actors aren't having to compete with people that are doing bad things in the system. So I also want to talk about, would like you to address, why is it essential to your business that illegally caught seafood stays out of the supply chain, and what are the ramifications if we don't pass stricter laws and enforce them?
Thank you, Congresswoman. Again, it goes back to the consumer confidence. Consumers want to know that they're eating a product that is harvested in an ethical and sustainable way, that is safe, good and wholesome for them, and that throughout the supply chain, people are adhering to those good standards. And so that is extremely important to us from a consumer confidence thing and doing the right thing, being the right business, having the right business practices.
Thank you so much, and with that, I'll yield back.
Gentlelady yields. Mr. Wahlberg, you're recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thanks to the panel for being here. Mr. Batten, thank you for being here to answer some questions that I have relative to the Great Lakes. I read through your written testimony, and I want to thank you for highlighting the importance of keeping invasive carp out of the Great Lakes. We haven't seen that with all administrations until this administration. As you know, these invasive carp pose a significant threat to our Great Lakes, the enjoyment, the economic impact, the recreational impact, all of the rest. As the native species they hold in the Great Lakes, the economies they support, and the recreational opportunity they provide. Bottom line, it's absolutely critical that we do everything in our power to ensure these carp do not reach the Great Lakes. Can you provide more detail about how the establishment of the Mississippi River Basin Fishery Commission would help in our efforts to ensure these invasive carp stay out of the Great Lakes?
Yeah, thank you for your question, Congressman. So the Chicago area waterway system that connects the Mississippi River with the Great Lakes Basin, there's the electric dispersal barrier that was done with GLRI funding, and also invasive carp management that comes through that funding. They're helping to control in the Illinois River, has successfully so far prevented invasion of that beyond the Dresden Island pool of the Illinois River. So, and then the addition of the Brandon Road Lock and Dam project will provide further protection from the Great Lakes from invasive carp. Now, while the technologies included with that project add additional safeguards, the continued management and control of invasive carp within the Illinois River and more broadly within the basin itself is critical to protect the success of these investments. The establishment of this commission will enhance coordination and communication throughout the Mississippi River Basin and also between the Mississippi River Basin and the Great Lakes, and hopefully provide a holistic, unified approach to controlling and preventing spread of invasive carp.
Okay. Having Lake Michigan and Lake Erie in my district, it's important to me in many ways to see that this has happened. You also mentioned the commission was modeled after the Great Lakes Fishery Commission, which was formed in the 50s when my dad and brother and I went up to Washington Island, Wisconsin, and Green Bay, and that lamprey issue was a concern there as we fished for perch, et cetera. The Great Lakes Fishery Commission has done exemplary work to curb lamprey population in the Great Lakes, helping to revive the fishery on the brink of collapse. How will the Mississippi River Basin Fishery Commission help support the work already being done in the Great Lakes by entities like the Great Lakes Fishery Commission to curb aquatic invasive species?
Yeah, thank you again for your question, sir. The Great Lakes Fishery Commission as model has clearly demonstrated the effectiveness of bringing together states, federal agencies, and other stakeholders under a common purpose, not only by coordinated control of sea lamprey and their devastating impacts on the Great Lakes, but also other aquatic invasive species. So transferring that successful model to the broader Mississippi River Basin will result in a similar success through enhanced coordination, communication, and management, and elevating the Mississippi River Basin fisheries management through the formation of this commission would also help ensure addressing challenges not only to the river basin, but the country as a whole. We've learned through really hard lessons that always prevention is much more valuable and the cheapest, most effective way to deal with aquatic invasive species. And both commissions working together hand in hand will result in a powerful voice in expanding those efforts.
Thank you. You also mentioned the importance of combating invasive mussels. As you likely know, this is a massive problem in the Great Lakes, as quagga and zebra mussels have pushed lake whitefish to the brink of collapse. How can the Mississippi River Basin Fishery Commission help combat the invasive mussels that are destroying our native fish populations?
Yes, thank you for your question, sir. Invasive carp are having a lot of the same effects as filter feeders that these mussels are having, as you've mentioned. Quagga and zebra mussels actually spread from the Great Lakes into the Mississippi River Basin, so we're very familiar with the effects of these species. And as mentioned earlier, again, prevention is definitely the most effective tool. We do not know what the next aquatic invasive species problem could be. We just know that one is coming. And we're hopeful that the commission will bring more resources, expertise, and coordination to this important work and benefit both basins. The Mississippi River Basin Fishery Commission will also serve as a facilitator and convener to align the states and unify state and federal regulations to prevent import and spreadful harm of future potential invaders. So again, improved coordination and communication through this commission will help facilitate more effective management and control and help prevent spread of new invasive species.
I wish you all good success. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Chair, I yield back.
Gentleman yields. Ms. Dingle, you're recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And my good friend from Michigan and I shared the same concerns, and that was my first question, so I'm going to build on all the points that he raised. I am a co-chair of the Great Lakes Task Force, but Mr. Wahlberg and I work very closely on protecting the Great Lakes. We just introduced a bill this week on the zebra mussels. And the Great Lakes, like your basin, are not only a natural resource, but they're a way of life that supports communities and jobs throughout the region. Mr. Wahlberg talked about a number of the invasive species we're worried about, but Asian carp has the potential to devastate the waters we all love in yours and ours. They out-eat, they outgrow, and they outcompete native fish. If left unchecked, the Asian carp boom will impact our region's $5 billion fishing and $11 billion boating industries. So we have to work together with you to stop the spread of the invasive species of the future. And we can't, I know we don't know what's the future, but like our current president isn't doing as well as it needs to be. So we can't afford to wait and combat this threat. And the fact of the matter is, currently, the Asian carp we don't like welcoming to our Great Lakes are coming through the Mississippi River towards Lake Michigan. So with this, I would like to start with the bipartisan draft legislation that you have. And Mr. Banton, what I think we'd both like to know is how the scope of this commission how do we unite our current control efforts? Let's not just talk, but how can we unite them? And how would uniting the Mississippi River Basin efforts with the Great Lakes bring greater focus and funding to controlling them, especially the Asian carp, and not suddenly have us competing for enough dollars that aren't enough to begin with to cover it?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. Again, I mentioned in my first, to Mr. Wahlberg's first question, that obviously there's significant investment being made in infrastructure at the point where the two basins come together. And, right now, the Mississippi River Basin is a little over 70 years behind the ball on the commission system that you all are fortunate to have in the Great Lakes. And so right now, the association that I have would be the only vehicle to talking to the Great Lakes Fishery Commission. And again, I think that's one of the great benefits here of elevating this commission. It puts us on a playing field to work together. I would like to mention that as we worked on this draft legislation, we visited with the executive director of the Great Lakes Fishery Commission. They were incredibly generous with their time and helped point us in some directions. Obviously, over 70 years, they have a lot of lessons learned. And so we already have the starting of a relationship there. And I would just look to see, how that develops. And I think we're in this together. Again, there's species coming from both directions. And so we're definitely in the fight together to keep what we have where we have and not introduce anything new.
And I hope we are always bipartisan, and I hope that your members will be bipartisan. Then we'll have a big bipartisan group of people working together. I was going to do some other questions, but it'll take too long with only 1:30. So I think Tim and I are showing that we want to work with you, and I'll ask the rest of my questions for the record. Thank you, Mr.
We'll
Chairman.
give you another 25 seconds.
That's all right. I was going to move to the Fisheries Data Modernization and Accuracy Act, but
Gentlelady yields. Chair recognizes Mr. McDowell for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I apologize to the witnesses for my voice. I have a 1-year-old and 2.5-year-old Petri dishes at home that have waged war on my vocal cords, so bear with me. But I'm grateful you all are here today because this is an important topic that I want to talk about. But as an avid outdoorsman, it brings me a lot of joy to see the legislation that we have before our committee today that actually promotes good stewardship of our fisheries. Because for far too long, unelected bureaucrats have imposed rules on an industry that they have never worked in, that they don't know much about, but that has incredibly harmed hardworking Americans. I joked yesterday with someone in my office that the flounder in North Carolina, if you catch one and keep it, you'll get the death penalty. If you catch it outside of the 75-second season that we have, that just doesn't work because it assumes that in South Carolina you have a completely different basis for everything that's going on, and it assumes that those fish can't swim across the border into South Carolina. So I want to highlight the fact that NOAA has relied on flawed fishing data that everyone acknowledges is unreliable. And those errors, they don't just show up on spreadsheets. I mean, they shut down seasons. They restrict access for our coastal communities, for folks from my district that travel to go fishing in the beautiful coast of North Carolina. And they punish the very people that depend on healthy, well-managed fisheries. And so we need to do something to modernize the data collection that we use. But I want to use my time to ask some questions to you, Mr. Conrad. It's always good to see someone from North Carolina, particularly someone that I've enjoyed some seafood. I feel like you probably pulled out of the ocean, so it's good to see you. But can you speak to the economic losses that fishermen in the United States face when they follow the strict federal policy, but then they must compete against illegally caught foreign products that are entering our markets?
Congressman, thank you for that question. Good to see you as well. And that's a tough one to answer because, of course, illegal and unregulated is somewhat hard to track. I'll go back to what we feel like is the benefit of this program, and that benefit is that we need the ability to enforce through multilateral and bilateral agreements with our trading partners through the vessel registry, finding out where the bad actors are and rooting them out. Now, I can tell you that on an economic level, I have talked a couple times about eliminating the SIMP program that you mentioned earlier, and I mentioned it at the beginning, that Congress and this subcommittee never authorized NEMPS to create this sprawling regulation. And that does create challenges on our member companies and other companies for essentially data mining is what it is, with zero referrals to the Department of Justice for any IUU fishing at all since its inception. And that is the number one goal of the program, but they have not had a single referral to the DOJ for not doing a great job there.
Well, so you would say that current federal regulations place a disproportionate burden on American vessels compared to the scrutiny that is faced by the foreign fleets?
I would say the current, on the, it's species specific on the SEMP program, so not necessarily on the American vessels themselves, but in some cases, yes.
Sure. From an industry standpoint, would stronger coordination with states, would that help improve the enforcement and the data quality for combating IUU fishing?
I think when we look at IUU fishing, we're talking about national and international situations. So going to other countries, strengthening our trade relationships with those countries, getting a vessel registry so we make sure those vessels never come to U.S. ports, that's what's going to help the American fishermen. That's what's going to put the American fishermen on a level playing field.
Gotcha. Well, Mr. Chairman, I will yield back the remainder of my time. Thank you all.
Gentleman yields. Chair recognizes Mr. Benz for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Conrad, I enjoyed our conversation yesterday, and happy to see you here. Thanks for traveling from North Carolina. And I'm going to follow up on some of the questions just asked. And I'm looking at your testimony, page 3, where you say, in nearly 8 years of operation, SIMP, that is the Seafood Import Monitoring Program, has failed miserably. Actually, you don't say miserably, but it's failed. And you were just saying why it had failed. And that is because of the lack of referral, or is there some other reason it's just not working?
Thank you, Congressman. Enjoyed our conversation yesterday as well. But yes, again, SIMP is essentially the Fish Act is targeting IUU fishing where it is happening, not as it's coming into the United States. And that's the problem with the data collection at SIMP, is that the fish has already been harvested. And so we're trying to stop it at harvest, before harvest, by getting a list of these vessels, knowing who the bad actors are, so that we can make sure that that does not come into the supply chain.
And so where do you get this list of bad actors? How do you know who it is?
There's certain RFMDs that we will work with in various parts of the world that are already there, established relationships, that we can work with them through, again, multinational agreements and find out who they are. They will go on a registry. And again, the vessel import ban on the seafood that's linked to those vessels as well.
And you call this risk-based, a risk-based approach. Is that the proper designation of
That's correct.
What you're talking about?
Yes,
And then how does the Fish Act factor into this, if at all?
Fish Act creates the registry. There's not a registry currently. And so that's how we know, and it also ties, again, the owners to the vessels and, also the vessels, and in some cases, cargo seizure with those RFMDs as necessary.
And you're not suggesting that there not be regulation. You're suggesting we need to regulate better because this is an important matter. So you're saying the Fish Act is better than SIMP.
That is correct, Congressman.
And to that end, we have that other act available. How does it work? I think you probably already just told us, but elaborate just a bit, if you will, on how the Fish Act would work.
Sure. Again, the Fish Act's going to provide multiple enforcement mechanisms that we don't currently have. Blacklist would not only apply to foreign vessels, but also the vessel owners, beneficial owners, individual vessels, or fleets of vessels in some cases. That would trigger a U.S. port entry ban, so we know that seafood cannot get into our supply chain here in the United States, and in some cases, again, vessel and cargo seizure if necessary.
Thank you. And That concludes my questions, but Mr. Chair, I would like to offer for the record a letter to Chair Westerman from Pacific Seafood regarding the Fish Act dated November 17th, 2025.
Without objection.
Thank you. Yield back.
Gentleman yields. Mr. Magaziner, you recognize 5 minutes.
Thank you, sir, and thank you to our witnesses and to my colleagues. I'm here today to advocate for and to urge passage of the Fish Act. I am the Democratic lead on this bill, along with the lead sponsor, Congressman Crenshaw, and Congressman Begich as well, I know has been leading on this. And I also want to thank our colleagues in the Senate. This is a bipartisan, bicameral bill on the Senate side, led by, I believe, Senator Sullivan and Senator Whitehouse from my home state of Rhode Island. It is vitally important for Rhode Island's coastal economy, for our fishermen, and for our entire country that we crack down on unfair and illegal overseas competition. Illegal international fishing undercuts law-abiding American fishermen and seafood producers who play by the rules. So American fishermen play by the rules, the United States of America enforces the rules, and we cannot allow ourselves to be undercut by those who do not follow the rules. American fishermen who fish sustainably and follow safety, labor, and environmental standards are being cheated out of compensation for their good behavior. They are being penalized for doing the right thing. And this is not a small problem. Illegally harvested seafood steals up to $50 billion a year out of the pockets of those men and women who are doing the right thing and playing by the rules, America's fishermen. So we need to level the playing field by cracking down on bad actors who break the rules. The Fish Act will accomplish this by blacklisting offending vessels from U.S. ports and waters, bolstering the Coast Guard's enforcement capabilities, and directing the President to impose sanctions on foreign entities that participate in illegal fishing to prioritize our international agreements. By strengthening U.S. enforcement against illegal fishing, the Fish Act will protect our oceans, our economy, our consumers, and our fishermen. Mr. Conrad, I know you've spoken on this a bit already, but I'll ask you one more time. Can you just speak at a high level about the economic impacts of illegal and unauthorized fishing on American fishermen who play by the rules and do the right things?
Thank you, Congressman. Yes, again, anytime that you have someone that is not playing by the rules or playing under a different different set of rules for fishing or harvesting, it damages our industry. It damages it in several ways. I mean, first, here and abroad, it punishes harvesters that are doing things the right way, right? Because it's taking resource away from them and potential stock away from harvesters who are following the rules. Secondly, it undercuts confidence in the fishery management systems that we rely on. Gentleman earlier and the chair from the Pacific Northwest have a fantastic management system that's world-renowned up there. And so it undercuts what our good actors are doing in those areas. And then finally, it corrodes consumer confidence, which if it corrodes consumer confidence, those consumers just may not purchase as much as that product anymore. And that certainly can hurt someone who is doing the right thing.
Thank you. I also just want to note, with the time I have left, that NOAA has an important role to play in the enforcement of this bill, should it become law, by establishing that black list of foreign vessels engaged in IUU fishing. And I do want to point out that the Trump administration has proposed to cut NOAA workforce by 17%, reduce NOAA's budget by 30%, has already cut 1,000 employees from NOAA. And I am concerned that inadequate staffing, inadequate capacity at NOAA will hurt our ability to implement this bill should it become law. Mr. Conrad, can you just speak at a high level about the importance of adequate staffing at NOAA in maintaining this list of foreign vessels that are engaged in illegal fishing?
Congressman, I've also spoken about what I would like to see happen with the SIMP program currently, and I would love for those resources to be reallocated to NEMPS for working with the Fish Act.
All right. With that, I'll yield back. Thank you.
Gentleman yields. Chair recognizes Mr. LaMalfa for 5 minutes of question.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you to our panel here. Sorry I was in dueling committees here today, so might be a little bit behind, but appreciate it. I want to, on the HR 338, every drop counts, Ms. Compton, touch base with you a little bit on this. It's a good, I'm all in on groundwater recharge and utilizing this, especially excess winter water we have frequently in California that could be further channeled to recharge in the valleys. Is the impetus for the legislation is that the smaller districts are not utilizing the ability to take advantage of this, and is that part of the reason the expansion up to 150,000 acre feet size districts and ability is important here, or within the scope?
So the impetus for the legislation really comes out of conversations that IRWD, who I'm with, and the Rosedale Rio Bravo Storage District, who's a partner with us, and we're moving forward with the Kern Fan Groundwater Storage Project, which is one of the small handful of projects that the state has funded. And in talking with the Bureau of Reclamation, the size for groundwater recharge projects just doesn't seem to make sense. And so, as you know, in California, we get a lot of rain really fast. And so the idea is, at least for the project that we're moving forward, to sink it in the ground when it's available, and then we have dry periods. With groundwater storage, you're not building a dam and a reservoir. You're allowing it to percolate in the ground naturally. And so it really, the more appropriate measure that makes sense to put it on par with surface storage, as described in the small storage program, is really the amount of recharge you can do in recovery. And because it's done when it rains really heavily, and then you don't do it for a while because it's dry, it's really aimed at averaging that out, so it puts it on par with a better metric for groundwater recharge and storage. That's the goal of the piece of legislation.
So do you find the 30,000 acre foot firewall has impeded more of this work that could be done then? Is that part of the problem?
Yes, sir.
Now, is there the resources available, the funding available? My understanding it's going to use already appropriated, which is fine. I'm not talking against it, but there's 43 million already appropriated. Will this in any way make more competition than there's dollars to implement the program for other districts?
My understanding is there's certainly strong interest in this program. And so with the $43 million left, there could be, and I'm hearing that there is more interest as the Bureau of Reclamation will issue their NOFO for the next rounds of funding. But I think it'll also encourage more folks to take a look at it. But if Congress reauthorizes it and appropriates more funding, I think it will also result in more projects that actually come to completion.
No, it's subject to NEPA review and permitting, et cetera. Do you think that it's going to be even more difficult for a project that's 5 times the amount of acre feet in scope from 150 versus 30,000? Is it going to be even more compound the ability to get NEPA and other reviews done, or will you get economies of scale and actually be easier? What do you think?
I actually think it'll be easier with groundwater recharge projects. You don't have as many of the environmental impacts that you may have with, say, a surface storage project.
Well, I'm not talking surface storage. I'm talking versus a larger project versus a smaller groundwater.
I actually think that it'll be easier to get the NEPA done. You're creating more environmental benefits with wetlands and other things. And so we don't see that as a challenge when you go from 30,000 acre feet to 150,000 acre feet.
Right. Right. Well, I'm all the above, including above ground storage too. So, we got big opportunities with Shasta and of course Sites Reservoir to have more above ground, and and I'm all for when we have these high flows to ship them your way to make sure that we're doing as much recharge as possible during these January and February timelines. It's somewhat frustrating that that the state isn't automatically issuing the permits to do so. It's like, oh, heck, we should get these permits out while the water's already flowing by to be able to channel that water into those projects. So we need to get DWR and the gang a little more front-loaded on that. So anyway, thank you. I'll yield back, Mr. Chairman.
Gentleman yields. Chair recognizes the man from Alaska, Mr. Begich. It's your turn.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I want to take a moment to speak to the FISH Act, and I want to commend Representative Crenshaw and Senator Sullivan for their leadership on this important legislation. As an Alaskan, I cannot overstate how serious the threat of illegal, unreported, and unregulated fishing is, not only to the health of our oceans, but to the economic security of our fishing communities and the long-term sustainability of fisheries. Alaska is home to the largest, most sustainable commercial fisheries in the United States. Our communities depend on clean, healthy oceans and reliable harvests, but when foreign fleets, often state subsidized and often operating far outside the bounds of responsible management, flood global markets with illegally harvested seafood, they undermine both conservation efforts and the livelihoods of law-abiding American fishermen. The FISH Act tackles that threat at its source. First, the establishment of a robust NOAA-mandated blacklist for vessels engaged in IUU fishing is a critical step forward. Many of these vessels repeatedly reflag, conceal ownership, or ignore international rules. Denying them U.S. port privileges, denying them services, and publicly identifying their beneficial owners are powerful tools that will increase transparency and raise real costs for illegal operations. Second, the bill strengthens Coast Guard enforcement. In Alaska, the Coast Guard patrols remote waters, often adjacent to heavily exploited areas fished by large foreign fleets from Russia and China. Increasing inspections and improving coordination with regional fisheries management organizations directly supports our men and women on the front lines and reinforces deterrence where it matters most. Third, the bill addresses the unacceptable link between IUU fishing and forced labor. Forced labor aboard distant water fleets is widely documented, and the seafood harvested under those conditions enters global markets at artificially low prices. Alaska fishermen should never have to compete against seafood produced under abusive and illegal labor practices. The FISH Act rightly strengthens U.S. efforts to prevent the importation of such products. At its core, the FISH Act protects American workers, American fisheries, and American coastal communities. It says clearly that the United States will not be a safe harbor for illegal vessels or a landing zone for illegally caught seafood. In Alaska, we know how to manage fisheries sustainably for today and for the next generation. The FISH Act reinforces that model internationally by cracking down on competitors who refuse to play by the rules. My first question, Mr. Conrad, can you help quantify in terms of American employment what impact foreign, illegal, unreported, and unregulated fishing practices have had?
Congressman, thank you for the question. That's hard to do because, again, these species are illegal, unregulated, and unreported by nature. We do know, though, that it impacts, to your point, the good actors that we have here in the United States. You mentioned, and I mentioned a little bit ago, our colleagues in the Pacific Northwest that really are the gold standard and have come a long way in sustainability and good labor practices. So it's hard to quantify that, what you're asking about the impact that it has here, but we know that it does put our commercial fishermen at a competitive disadvantage, and hopefully with the passage of the FISH Act, we can help with that.
And just a follow-up question there. Can you speak to the impact that IU practices are having on the ability to maintain sustainable, healthy, and predictable fisheries around the world? How threatening are these practices to the ecosystem?
Again, Congressman, that's a different one for me to quantify, but I could try to do some research and get back to you, if that would be okay.
That sounds good. And Dr. Sweetman, I see you shaking your head. Do you have some thoughts on that?
Yeah, illegal practices for fishing can be very destructive. I mean, there's no concern about benthic habitat, no concern for the fisheries. It's just a pillage type of operation, so yes, they can be destructive.
Thank you. And that's been our observation and our experience. When we see this sort of activity, we can see it collapse fisheries, and they can take decades to recover when you have bad actors operating in territories around the world. And they do so for short-term economic gain, but it puts American fisheries and the businesses that employ these fishermen and fisherwomen at great risk. And I want to just say that, look, at the end of the day, one of our jobs here in Congress is to protect the American worker. We want to make sure that we're all operating on a level playing field. And that is one of the many reasons I support the Fish Act, and I urge my colleagues to do the same. And with that, I yield back.
Gentleman yields. I want to thank all of you for being here today, our witnesses, providing this valuable testimony, and the members for the questions. The members of the committee may have some additional questions for the witnesses, and we will ask you to respond to them in writing. Under Committee Rule 3, members of the committee must submit questions to the subcommittee clerk by 5 p.m. Eastern on Monday, the 24th of November. The hearing record will be held open for 10 business days for these responses. If there is no further business, without objection, the subcommittee stands adjourned.